Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. What is fast becoming the most popular segment here on the channel, RINGIQ Hate Mail. In my previous video, we talked about Devin Haney's last performance, and how based on that, a good number of voters over there at Source of Boxing don't think he's going to beat Brian Norman, to which Norman's Photos responded with a lengthy comment that reads, "This is an extremely poor analysis on Devin Haney, and quite sad to hear, given you are talking about an undisputed and two-weight world champion."
Who did he beat to become undisputed?
He took his hits from a juiced-up cheater, came back a year or so later, which is a long layoff by his standards, and got a win using tactics with minimal risk, but all of a sudden Brian Norman Jr.
Oh, because Jose Ramirez was so risky?
Is going to run over him because he's scared? Clearly you've never been a boxer or gloved up, else you would know none of those guys are scared.
Well, you know who has laced him up? You know who has boxed before? Subriel Matias. And he said that Devin Haney fought scared. You want to argue with him? Shane Mosley, who helped Devin prepare for that fight, said that he pissed him off because that scary shit ain't what they were working on.
But Norman continued, "I believe Haney went into the Ramirez fight getting back in the groove after a long layoff and baggage from the previous farce of a fight. This led to the type of performance he delivered, which was underwhelming. Now with another fight lined up, in quick succession and longer training camp time to prepare, we will see an improved Devin Haney and a Haney that doesn't have to cut as much weight, which is an interesting proposition I cannot wait to see."
What are you saying? He didn't have enough time to prepare for a slow-footed, flat-footed Jose Ramirez? Is that the excuse?
Will his skills be too much for Brian Norman? Will he have more pop in his punches? Or will Norman be able to match his skills and catch him with one of those power shots for the knockout? No idea, but my money is on Haney, given the gulf in experience. Please do better analysis for your viewers next time, as that was a horrible take. Using a poll of random people on a website as a basis for an argument, that is beyond poor.
Hey, stupid fuck. What the fuck are you if not a random person online? What the hell is supposed to make your opinion any better than those who voted?
What's supposed to make what you think any more valid than what they think? It's open to interpretation. You're just choosing to cry about it.
And there goes that token appeal to authority that, unless you've boxed before, you don't have a right to have an opinion, even though the guys who have boxed have the same opinion I have. Devin Haney fought scared. What do you think? Because you took a few Zumba classes, or I don't know, maybe you failed as a boxer? You think that your opinion is more valid than anybody else's? Then you shouldn't even watch channels like this one.
Why bother with anybody's opinion? You've got it all figured out.
Oh, you're so fucking important that I'm supposed to dismiss a poll with a rather large sample size to focus on you and what you think, because you're so fucking special.
Oh, he must be.
Entitled is more like it, that he actually gets upset a large group of people don't like Devin's chances based on how he's been looking his last two fights. That token appeal to authority. Well, I guess that unless you're a chef yourself, you're not allowed to rate the food in a restaurant, and unless you're a director or an actor, you're not allowed to have an opinion on a movie that you watch. And you know what? Since you're not a YouTuber, Norman,
You're not allowed to have an opinion on this channel.
You're not a content creator, and that is the rationale you're using, Norman. That is the logic you're exercising, which, in effect, is illogical.
The only people apologizing for Devin Haney's underwhelming performance are fans of Sugarfoot fighters, sissy fighting. Nobody pays money to be at a boxing match or watch it at home to see sissy fighting.
I don't give a fuck what you want to call it. People don't pay money to see that shit. It's so bad that even if the guy wins, the audience lost.
So they don't care about the outcome. They don't give a shit.
I don't care about your partiality, and we all know what it is. I don't care about what code you're trying to keep. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. You are, in essence, upset that an overwhelming number of voters don't think Devin is going to win. The video itself wasn't even a prediction video.
It's centered around why so many people think Devin is going to lose and surmising their logic. Now, they could be right or they could be wrong, but you're mad that I'm even having the conversation because what you think is so much more important. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Bet she's a fucking Democrat.
Shut the fuck up. In men's super lightweight news, Subriel Matias versus Dalton Smith to take place January 10th in New York, venue to be determined. Subriel Matias' promoter is ready to test his marketability in the tri-state area. The ring has confirmed a plan to bring Matias' mandated WBC 140-pound title defense against England's Dalton Smith there January 10th. Smith has mentioned that date and New York in recent days on social media. Fresh Promotions, which promotes Puerto Rico's Matias, won a purse bid last month to secure the rights to the fight with a winning bid of $1.9 million, which I found curious since Fresh Promotions doesn't have a broadcast partner. And normally, when you're talking about fights in the range of 7 figures, usually that money's coming from a network.
So where does a small Puerto Rico-based outfit find $1.9 million for a fight like this?
It wasn't clear at the time this story was posted where in New York the event headlined by Matias and Smith will be held. The initial plan was to make Matias versus Smith part of Ring 4, the undercard for November 22nd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Fresh Productions insisted it happen in New York instead. Matias, 23-2 with 22 knockouts, rated number 2 by The Ring at junior welter, won his WBC title when he edged the Dominican Republic's Alberto Puello by majority decision as part of Ring 3 this past July.
This is taking too fucking long. I mean, I like Matias versus Smith as a fight, but it's your run-of-the-mill mandatory title defense. It shouldn't take this long to put it together.
Matias battered a previously unbeaten Jeremiah Ponce to claim the vacant IBF title in February of 2023, 2 years ago. He made one successful defense against Shohan Ergashev, who he stopped in 6 rounds before surprisingly losing his title in a homecoming defense against Liam Botto in June of last year. However, he recalibrated with a pair of wins before toppling Puello. Smith, 18-0 with 13 KOs, rated at number 7 by The Ring at junior welter, won British, Commonwealth, European, and WBC regional titles. He owns wins over Sam Maxwell, former world title challenger Jose Zepeda, and Matthew Germain, whom he beat by a lopsided 12-round unanimous decision in his most recent fight this past April. The Matias Smith undercard will feature former 2-time bantamweight champion Emmanuel Rodriguez, also of Puerto Rico, who will fight for the first time since he lost his IBF title to Ryosuke Nishida last May. Also tapped to appear is 2-time Olympian Javier Cintrón and junior welterweight Alfredo Santiago in separate action against opponents that have yet to be determined. It looks like they're showcasing Puerto Rican fighters, Puerto Rican talent. The tri-state area is the ideal place for such a card, as there is a rather large contingent of Puerto Ricans that live in New York.
All the Puerto Ricans that live on the Lower East Side, and the more that live uptown in La Marqueta, as well as the Puerto Ricans in the Bronx, different parts of Bushwick.
There's a lot of Puerto Ricans living in New York, but I don't know that Subriel Matias versus Dalton Smith as a main event, as a headliner, is going to draw all that big a crowd. We'll have to see. It sounds a lot like Fresh Productions wants to be the captain of the ship. They want to be at the helm of the promotion. They want to do this on their own. There have been a lot of rumors about this fight.
Myself, I thought this fight was going to land on Amanda Serrano's undercard later on this year. I wondered Where does a small, local promotional outfit come up with $1.9 million? I figured they must have got it from somebody else, somebody with money to burn, like MVP.
That was my theory. Then news broke about a separate rumor that this fight was going to land on the undercard of Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez. Also set to go down in New York, also set to be going down early next year.
But this latest development indicates the opposite. These guys are doing their own show, Dalton Smith and Subriel. They're going to be the headline fight.
So they've got a tentative date, January 10th in New York, but they've yet to give a location and broadcast information. Where are people supposed to see this fight? At home? On the DAZN platform?
As stated, once you start talking about seven-figure fights and seven-figure purses, usually that's because the promoter's getting that money from a network. But to my knowledge, Fresh Productions doesn't have a network deal. So where are they supposed to be airing this?
Still don't know, but there's plenty of time for those details to come out. All of October, all of November, all of December. We've got about 3 months in between now and the proposed fight date.
Now, as far as the fight, I was already leaning towards Subriel Matias' unrelenting pressure, which I think is more that Dalton Smith can deal with or has had to deal with. Granted, Subriel Matias has his drawbacks. His defense is leaky, he gets hit a lot, but he's got a chin, and his feet aren't the best, but his work rate is.
Unrelenting pressure oftentimes makes even the most polished boxer unravel round after round. Dalton Smith seems a sizable puncher to some degree, but I don't get the sense he hits so hard that he'll stop Subriel. I feel like Dalton Smith's power is probably on par with Jeremias Ponce's power or Shohan Ergashev's power.
Guys that Matias knocked out.
Guys who started off all right, but the old saying goes, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And in those fights, Matias finished them. So I get the sense he might finish Dalton Smith.
Dalton Smith is a guy that Eddie Hearn has been invested in for some time, but Eddie Hearn and Matchroom just don't have the best track record of winning these purse bids.
This was another one where Matchroom lost the bid, and they didn't even lose it by much, to the point where I became suspicious. And now it would seem that all Eddie Hearn really can do is cross his fingers and hope for the best, as Dalton Smith endeavors to become a world champion on hostile territory. It's not neutral terrain, New York.
There's going to be a lot more Puerto Ricans there than there are Brits.
Crawford was too fast for Canelo. Too many combinations. Canelo doesn't jab anymore. He looks for one shot now. You know, I mean, the end is near for Canelo. And I just think that Crawford was too fast for him, you know, especially in the southpaw position. We all know Canelo have problems with the southpaw. So, you know, and that's why I picked Crawford. I just thought Crawford could be too fast for him.
And he was. Ronnie Shields was right in his assertions. What's alarming is that he says that the end is near. The end is near for Canelo,
who still has 2 fights remaining on his existing Riyadh season deal. They wanted for him to come back in February, but based on the elbow surgery he's set to have, he likely won't return until May.
In my previous video, we talked about what opponent options are on the table for him. The winner of Eubank versus Ben 2, provided that it's Chris Eubank Jr., or Hamza Shiraz, he's right there at 168. They share a common opponent in Edgar Berlanga.
There is also Christian Mabili, WBC interim champion. The WBC recently announced that they're ranking Canelo at number 1, which puts him in line for a Mabili fight. So Canelo has some options.
Still plenty out there for him. The question is there still enough left in the tank for Canelo to bounce back, to rebound, since so many are of the opinion that he's finished and he's done?
Canelo, just domination. I was hurt, I ain't gonna lie, because I've been a fan of Canelo since I was a kid. So my heart, a tear almost came on my eye, I ain't gonna lie, because it felt like, you know, that Canelo's done. But I just think he was a little off that night. I think he can, you know, make a big comeback. But to Crawford, man, he's the greatest of this era. You got to give it to him. Greatest of this era. Nobody's ever done that before. 3-time undisputed. So you got to take your hats off to Crawford. And I was just shocked that he was able to just dismantle Canelo like that. You know, even with the size difference. That just goes to show size doesn't win fights.
Terence Crawford was seemingly able to circumvent Canelo Alvarez's size and power in all the ways that Canelo has circumvented the size and power of many other fighters like Callum Smith,
Sergey Kovalev, Daniel Jacobs. Oftentimes, Canelo Alvarez himself is the smaller man going into a fight. The tables were turned on him. And I don't know if it's because he's done, he's finished, and he ain't got it anymore, or if Terence Crawford is just that good. I tend to lean towards the latter.
It's very easy to have these knee-jerk reactions where you immediately count a guy out. The boxing fans and the boxers themselves often live in extremes. Yes, Terence Crawford was able to thoroughly outbox Canelo Alvarez, but everybody's not Terence Crawford. So, against somebody else, Canelo might do better. They say that you're always one fight away from your best performance or your worst. Now, that was the worst I've seen Canelo Alvarez in a while, since the Bivol fight. Irrespective of what happens in Canelo Alvarez's next two fights, I think it's very clear to everyone that he's almost done, and he's not the only one. In Terence Crawford, I don't imagine he's going to be around that much longer either. Anthony Joshua, who's supposed to be returning early next year, I don't think he has much time left. Gervonta Davis said it himself. He's going to retire after his next fight with Jake Paul, so there is a question. Who becomes the face, and who has the most potential to put the sport on their back after all of these guys are gone?
These are some of the biggest names in the sport, some of the biggest draws, biggest ticket sellers. What fighter out there do you see on either side of the Atlantic Ocean or somewhere else who yields the most potential to become boxing's face? It's a funny story. Way back in 2015, even though Canelo Alvarez was already an established draw and a pay-per-view attraction, I didn't imagine that he would become the face. And that didn't happen right away.
If you can remember, they didn't refer to Canelo Alvarez as the face of boxing in 2015 or 2016, 2017. I don't think it was until after the second Gennady Golovkin fight that people started referring to Canelo Alvarez as the face, and he was the face henceforth.
What's funny about that?
But it wasn't clear right away who the face of boxing would become in the absence of Floyd Mayweather, and it was someone who I did not expect. It was Canelo.
So maybe the same applies here and now? Maybe the face of boxing, the next one, is already out there, and we just don't know who it is yet. Because if you would have told me in 2015 or 2016 that Canelo would become the face, I wouldn't have believed you, not then.
And there are some massive undertakings in the sport of boxing right now. The launch of Zuffa Boxing next year, the reemergence of Top Rank, I imagine, in whatever form they return. With so many of the biggest draws in boxing right now circling the drain at the same time, the reset button will be hit in many ways, leaving the door open for someone fresh, someone new, to come in and take over. It's just a question of who.
Canelo still has 2 fights remaining on his Riyadh season deal, so I imagine those fights will happen on his regular schedule. May, then September of next year. It's hard to imagine that Canelo continues to fight beyond that, as he really doesn't have to. He's made more than enough money to retire on, that he doesn't have to keep fighting, but he can end his career off a win, on a high.
I think he can still do that. I don't imagine he keeps fighting after next year. I don't see why he would.